we're one of 3 breweries that broke the barrier into regional brewing. We are the 10th fastest growing brewery in the country as of last year's numbers. The only brewery in the past 3 years that has been in the top 10 growing brewery in the country. It starts with good people. Yeah. And obviously the beer and the quality of the beer is a given, but it starts with good people, and the strategy and all that other stuff comes after.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of our Business Ninjas podcast, where we meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about Societe Brewing with Doug Constantiner, who's the CEO at Societe, and Jonas Wilby, who is the VP of Sales. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously Societe Brewing is in the beer space, beverages and alcohol space. You guys have actually been around about 11 years locally here in San Diego. And obviously being a San Diegan myself, I'm very familiar with Societe Brewing, but you know, there are people who are listening to this who aren't very familiar with Societe Brewing, because we have listeners from all across the country, lots of sales and marketing leaders, entrepreneurs like yourself, lots of executives. So as we kick things off here, you know, before we jump into Societe Brewing and who you guys are and what you guys are doing, you know, love it if you can, you know, maybe Doug start us off with, you know, telling our community a little bit about yourself and maybe some of the things you're focused on today, and then same thing over for Jonas.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. Where do I start? Now, I'm a simple person who happened to have fallen into this. I gained a passion for beer at a young age. Did investment banking for a little bit, and long story short, moved to San Diego to pursue my dreams of becoming a brewer and one day starting a brewery. So I wanted to be in San Diego specifically. You know, Portland and Denver were part of it, that thought process too. But I wanted to be surrounded by what I considered the highest concentration of world-class breweries. And what I really loved and was passionate about was production brewing versus pub brewing, which is a brewery restaurant. And I saw San Diego as that place to be the best. So became a brewer here, worked at a couple places, and ended up starting Societe in 2012 because beer started to become cool outside of San Diego. And for those of you listening who aren't from San Diego, like San Diego, everyone just drank IPAs all the time. And that's why I was kind of drawn to it. I was like, this is just the weirdest thing in the whole entire world. Like, IPAs are for brewers. And I'm talking to friends across the country, and all of a sudden, like, regular consumers that have normally like no business drinking IPAs really started liking IPAs. I'm like, holy shit, you know, pardon my language, but craft beer is getting cool. And so I was like, we got to start a brewery now or it's going to be too late. And we were brewery number 50 in San Diego, and now there's about 180. And there's been some opening and closings. So since we've opened in 2012, so what's that, 130? There's probably been 160 brewery openings since then. I mean, it's a really intense marketplace, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to challenge myself because and everything I am passionate about, you know, you're never going to know if you're the best if you're not surrounded by the best.
Yeah. So,
and it's also cool that, you know, we're a couple miles away from people like AleSmith and Ballast Point and Lost Abbey and Stone and Pizza Port and Karl Strauss. So it's a really cool thing geographically, even just to be close to those people. So that's why we started Societe here in San Diego. And yeah, we're 11 years in and growing.
Sure. I love it. A lot I want to kind of break down from that. But what I'm hearing is you like competition and you like a challenge.
Might be a little competitive. I don't know. Yeah, sure.
So let's see. So we got the VP of Sales here, right? Jonas, like give us
more competitive. Yeah, he's definitely more competitive than I am.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess my start in the craft beer world was mainly coming from my dad always telling me when I was growing up, do something that you love. And at 22, 23, few things that I loved were beer. And so I decided to get into that beer world and started up at Stone Brewing here in San Diego County as well. Grew with that company and left in 2019, where right before Doug swooped me up and helped me join their executive team here at Societe Brewing Company, and it's been off to the races since then. That is for damn sure.
Yeah. Well, they got a steal, taking you from Stone for sure.
He was delivered by a stork.
I had clothes on.
Let's go back really quick, Doug. I'd love to kind of go back, right? You mentioned you're in investment banking. What's like the origin story to like get you to, where you are here today, right? Like from investment banking to, becoming a brewer yourself and now being like one of the top 50 breweries here in, or at least like first to market right here in San Diego with the other competition, right? It's like, what was that origin story for you?
Yeah, that origin story was the way I grew up. I didn't realize that I could be in a trade or even be an entrepreneur, quote unquote. I mean, everyone in my family is like a lawyer, a doctor, or a banker. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'll have a second career. So what's the best way? Because I knew at 18 I wanted to start a brewery. So I said, is it going to be law, medicine, or finance that is going to give me the ability to bank $30 million by the time I'm 45 and I can retire? This is also at 18. So, remember, this is not very realistic.
Dreams.
Yeah. But I was like, so what can I do professionally, career wise, where I can bank a bunch of money, retire young, and have a second career and move to California or Oregon or Colorado and start a brewery? And it was when I was in New York, I was applying to business schools. Everything was really to try and make more money just so I could start a brewery one day. And a bunch of things happened over the course of probably 6 months that kind of led me down this very introspective path of, is what I'm doing actually the right move, or should I do this right now?
Mhm.
And kind of like really understanding outside forces and what I like to call return on luck. And if I really want to do this, I've got to do it now. So rather than going to business school and then going to private equity and doing that whole jazz and retiring at 45 and changing your lifestyle when you have a family and, who knows what, because I don't know what it was like when I was 23 years old to be 45. I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this now. And if I fail now, I can always go back to finance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I really knew deeply that if I made it to 45 and I had the money to start a brewery, it's probably more unrealistic that I could, try and wash kegs for 80 hours a week and at, multiple places and then get back into finance. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this and move to San Diego and just canvas the whole place and work everywhere I possibly can, even if it's bartending, if it's washing kegs, if it's bottling, if it's building case boxes. Like, it didn't matter. I just wanted to do it. I wanted to be involved in it because there's honestly really what it was. The simplest way to put it, there was nothing else in the whole entire world I wanted to do. That was it.
Yeah. That was kind of going to be my next question, is like, so you always knew you wanted to do this, and especially like, you always knew you wanted to work with beer. Like, were you a home brewer? Like, did you always know you wanted to start a brewery?
Yeah, so I started home brewing. I was like 19 or 20, sophomore, junior year of college. Obviously loved exploring craft beer and drinking it. So this is early 2000s when I got into it, which is, the landscape back then was way different than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
You had to really seek out these beers, and it was kind of like a fun adventure. It was like hidden treasure type stuff of who has what, and you have a really good relationship with like the local liquor store that you really like that has all this stuff. And then I was like, you know what, if if I really love this, what's the next step? Well, I'll start homebrewing.
Mhm.
Okay, well, then I started homebrewing and then got obsessed with homebrewing. And I never homebrewed so I could learn it to start a brewery. I just wanted to do everything I could to learn more about beer. And in New York, I uh, had to turn down an internship offer. So it was like, love drinking beer, loved home brewing. Now you got the opportunity to work at a brewery 1 day a week, and I couldn't take it because I was working 7 days a week doing investment banking. And that was one of the many pieces where I was like, gosh darn it, you know what? Like, I can't even do this on the side. I've got to make it my full-time thing. But yeah, I loved home brewing. I was the president or vice president of the New York City Home Brewers Guild. Was very involved in that. I was involved with the with QAF, the Quality Ale and Fermentation Fraternity here in San Diego. I mean, I love home brewing. I do think it's at least used to be, and I hopefully still think now it very much is a big heart and soul of the craft beer movement. So I think it's an incredible thing, and home brewing's great. It's awesome because when you get into professional brewing, there's a lot of things you can't do that you can do with home brewing. I mean, now it's a business, so
Right.
we have to look at COGS and profit margin and all that. With with home brewing, you're like, whatever, I'll try it out. So it's a really fun thing. I always tell people who love home brewing that they want to become a professional brewer. I'm like, just make sure, because when you're a home brewer, you can do anything. When you're a professional brewer, it's a job.
Yeah.
It's a great job. That's fun.
What about you, Jonas? Like, what was your kind of introduction into this world?
Yeah. I've growing up in San Diego County, you had great beer all around. So 2006, 2007, 2008, there was all these great craft breweries that were popping up all around. And my wife actually started working at Carl Strauss. I don't know if you're familiar with the old garden spot right there in Kearney Mesa, or excuse me, Sereno Mesa. And that's where I really started like understanding a little bit more about the craft beer scene. You always had Stone around, you had, all the Ballast Point and so forth and so on. And getting to understand some of that, like the barrel age stuff and, Belgians and different types of beers that were coming out of the craft beer scene. And you're like, wow, this is so much different than a Pacifico. And from there, I was like, man, what are the different flavor profiles that you can achieve? And to Doug's point earlier, IPAs are king here in Southern California and in San Diego specifically. And so I got on the IPA train, which really kind of led me down the road to Stone Brewing Company, which they were just trying to blow everybody's head off with as many hops as they could fit into a barrel. And that really opened me up to what the different types of flavor profiles you can get from hops. And kind of the rest is history from there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the space a little bit. Being in San Diego, and seeing all the competition that's in this space that you guys are all competing for, and there's so many breweries here and so many big names in the space. Like, tell me, I guess maybe let's go back to maybe the first year or two that you started the company, Doug. Like, what were you guys going through then to, like, separate yourself from maybe some of the competition?
So to separate ourselves, I mean, the easiest way I'll say it is I met with Greg Cook, co-founder, CEO of Stone, and told him, hey, we're going to start a brewery here. I'm not trying to be the next Stone. You can convert the masses, and I know you're not trying to be the next Anheuser-Busch. And so if you are to Anheuser-Busch what I can be to you, then I'll consider myself successful. That it's like you convert everybody, and then you take 1% of Anheuser-Busch's drinkers, I'll take 1% of yours. And if you're okay with that, and I get your blessing, that'll be great. And he was like, yeah, that's totally cool. That's fine. But what to specifically from a market standpoint, one thing we did strategically was we didn't bottle, we didn't can. We were self-distributed, so we didn't use a wholesaler, and we were draft only. We also were the second tasting room that was open, just a tasting room, 7 days a week in San Diego. The other one being Ballast Point. Stone up in Escondido obviously was open 7 days a week, but they had a restaurant. It was a really beautiful big venue. I was there the other night with my daughters. So we were like, let's focus on, that beer is becoming cool. A lot of it's more acceptable. It's not just like this home brewers thing. And let's make sure that we can be hyper local and really focus. Not that anybody wasn't focused on quality, but our way of defining quality was to be small and local. And you're going to get beer at our taste room and maybe 100 restaurants around San Diego. And if we can make money that way, then we'll be happy as a clan. That's how we kind of came out of the gates running.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of sounds like for me, it's like a focus on the beer itself for sure. The locality of it and even like thinking about the target market and keeping it technically like local just to start to build that following.
Yeah, and really focusing on the high spotting all the quote unquote again, like now it's different, but 11 years ago, like the good places, the places that the beer quality on draft is going to be good, and trying to get into the places that nobody else can get into versus just trying to canvas the whole entire market. And that was how we wanted to come out and establish a reputation for quality first versus profit.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely like a quality versus quantity approach out of the gate. Like how is that affecting like the scale, I guess, right? Since there was a focus on quality and like how does that affect? I don't. You're the expert, right? Like is the focus on quality because of like how much you're able to scale at that time as well?
Yeah, that's a big thing because I think as you grow, the beer should get better. Mm-hmm. So there's conscious decisions on where you can focus on quality. So if you're, for me, or I shouldn't say if you, but for Society, when we were quote unquote small, if we were to put in a canning line without a full lab with a QA/QC program, even if you're small, that doesn't mean the beer is going to be good. Mm-hmm. So as you grow, if you can kind of create that scale of economy, the snowball effect of like, well, now we can ensure that the beer is getting better as we grow, then you're succeeding at that scale. When you're small, the easiest way to win with quality is to put your beer in kegs that you fill yourself, that you deliver to a bar, and you put it in the cold box.
Oh, the entire operation, yeah.
Yeah, from grain to glass, that's the best way to do it. When you get bigger, I think there's a lot more controls that we've needed to put in place to ensure that quality is still there. But being small, it's one of those things where it's like there's a when you're small, like we're not racing Ferraris, we were racing go-karts.
Right.
And I knew we could win at the go-kart races if we focused just on go-karts and never thought about like I want to be in a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not going to beat Stone because they have 10 people in their lab and their lab has a building larger than our whole entire facility. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what can we do the best with what we have now? And that was the whole quality approach. And we still, now our whole thing is quality is a given. Mm-hmm. It's never going to like go away. Yeah. We just have to ensure and execute that as we grow, our quality and our QA/QC program continues to get better.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Maybe we're like where you guys are today, right? What are some of the challenges? And this could be for either you, Doug, or Jonas, either one.
I'm gonna let Jonas take this one. Sounds like a sales question.
Yeah, like what are some of like the bigger challenges that you guys are facing right now as a business? Like just kind of the evolution of the companies. It's changed a lot over the last 11 years, over a decade now, which is kind of probably crazy for you guys, but. Jonas, like what are some of the things like you're focused on solving for on the sales side?
On the sales side specifically, it's just continuing to maximize exposure, right? The quality as a given is a massive part of our success. I really kind of came in right at the right time. Beginning of 2020, we're just getting a canning line in. Doug's like, hey, let's rev up the engines and make this thing run. But hey, we like quality it's not even priority one. It's like, unless we have quality, there is no priority one. So really being able to like focus on that and just tell the story of great beer, to not only our distributors, but the retailers and to the end all consumer as well. So our approach is to continue to teach, train, and keep these people excited about great beer, especially in the ready to drink space or the CPG space. There's so many new options, right? You go down the beer aisle now, there's a 6-foot section of wine that's in cans. There's a 6-foot section of cocktails that are in cans. There's a 6-foot section of Modelo and Pacifico. And then you get over to the craft section that's about 10 feet, and there's 100 different brands in there. And so to really be able to stand out in that space, it's been a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of education. And the thing that really we always go back to is how great our beer is. A big thing that has been difficult for, and I would say anybody in the beer space, is price. You're seeing an increase on cost of goods. You're seeing an increase on distribution because gas is going up, cost of employment is going up. But if you look at that beer shelf, the tags are not going up at that same rate. You buy a chicken breast, it's 2 times the amount that it was 3 years ago, but a 6-pack of beer is about maybe 8% more, 5 to 8% more. So really getting good at being able to ensure that the quality is still there, and you're not, what does Teddy always say, taking pepperoni off the pizza, making sure that you've got the best quality.
Any idiot can take a pepperoni off pizza
to make the price a little bit better.
That's the easy part of business.
But being more strategic around it, and I mean, we are at the higher end of that, but we don't want to be the highest end, right? So strategically being able to go to market, tell the story of great quality, and educate the fan to say, hey, look, yeah, we may be at this price point on the shelf, but you're going to get the best IPA in the world.
Yeah, so it's all add in inflation, consolidation on the big side, and then saturation from the small side. Those are the challenges I see, business-wise.
Well, when you think about like your ideal customer, obviously it's me at the end of the food chain, but like you also work a lot, you mentioned, with like distributors and retailing, the retail focus as well. So like, how are you telling that story to them? Like, just how are you educating them? Is it going and bringing them in? Are you guys going out to them? Like, tell me, I guess, a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit of both. I would say, I mean, obviously we're now throughout the entire state of California, so it's hard to bring in all of our distributors and retailers to experience that society space here at one of our tasting rooms. But really getting in front of them, obviously the liquid itself, the beer itself, just getting them to be able to enjoy that. And the good old Pepsi challenge is always a great opportunity for us, especially in the retail space or in the consumer facing space. And yeah, just really just telling the story through great beer.
I also think it's to add on to that, it's less tactical. Well, not that you said anything wrong, but like one thing we also do is more of celebrate beer in general. So when we go out, we're not necessarily saying we're not hyper aggressive on things. We're just beer fans trying to sell great beer. And if we can tell a good story, awesome. But we're friends with everybody. And I think that's like one of the beauties of this industry. Obviously, we want to win, and we need to win financially. But it's celebrating craft beer. I mean, it's why craft beer has been successful and why it took off in the aughts and the teens, is because it's a big community, and everyone's pretty much friendly with each other. Obviously, there's obviously competition, and if we lose a handle to another brewery, we're like, damn it. But we're not like, go get that handle back. It's like, well, they got us this time. Next time it's for what I've seen, it's the friendliest business I've been in, and the term friendly competition is super true.
Yeah.
And if we just focus on ourselves and focus on telling the story of society and what we're part of is craft beer first, and then it's California beer, and then it's San Diego beer, and then it's Society beer. That we tend to win that way.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely in an elite space being here. But yeah, I mean, the beer at the end of the day has to honestly sell itself too. That's what people are going to remember for sure. And as you think about like what's next, like I'd love to understand, how are you planning to continue to grow and scale? Like what are some of the, ways you're trying to, maybe it's an expansion. I don't know. You guys can kind of tell me, but like what is kind of that, the next phase here for you?
So,
Oh, go ahead. No.
well, I'll just talk about internally because Jonas focuses more externally stuff.
Totally. No.
Internally, getting more efficient with production, increasing customer engagement and customer satisfaction on the retail side is really what I'm focused on. So, if we can use the same amount of people and get creative with our COGS or our brewing process, where it doesn't affect the quality of the beer whatsoever, maybe it even makes it better. And then we can, drop some more dollars to the bottom line. We can share that money with everybody in the company. If we can, confront the brutal truth of that there are over 200 breweries or satellite taste rooms in San Diego, and realize that like people are, especially post-COVID, aren't coming into Kearney Mesa like they used to because everyone was working from home for 3 years and trying to drive that business, and kind of understand that like, our taste room, literally now, statistically speaking, there are 3 breweries closer to you now today than there were when we opened. So how can we keep it interesting as opposed to like, having a clean bathroom is a given. Like you should just always have clean bathrooms. Like that's not like, well, we have clean bathrooms and that's why people come here. Oh, well, we put up a new beer. That's why people come here. It's customer service. It's making sure the people behind the bar are happy, and then listening to our customers and what kind of merchandise we can do, and kind of exploring that side. It's a great marketing arm. So that's I let Jonas focus on the external stuff. So go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not too much different from what I've already said. It's really, we have so much white space, right? We just launched cans in 2020. Really started getting into some of our major retailers like the Albertsons and the Ralphs or the Rayleighs or the Targets of the world in late 2020, early 2021. So we're really still telling a story to a lot of our retailer partners, as well as our new markets. We were San Diego only through March of 2020. And so, SoCal in 2021, NorCal, and, the majority of the rest of the state in 2022. And so we've got a lot of opportunity, which is a lot of fun. And so continuing to get back in there, more strategic ground game. We look at it from a more, we don't necessarily have this massive marketing arm that's telling an amazing story about Society and the Pupil and the Harlot and all of our different brands through social media or traditional marketing. So we treat it from like more of like that 360 marketing approach where we're, hyper focused in specific areas. Similar to when we started, we were hyper focused in San Diego and in those like higher end, like really great craft beer bars. Now we're like, okay, well, where is the brand working? We need to make sure that we're in those grocery locations. We're in those local pizza joints. Where's the closer bar at? And so people start to see the brand on a more consistent basis to help the velocity in those markets. And as that cup fills up in that market, you can start spilling out into the newer markets as well. And so we're not looking to necessarily shotgun it. We're way more strategic in our approach. I mean, we've got a very small sales team, a small team in general. But we've got quality, great beer, and people love us. And we've got a top 10 IPA in the world. And so we've got a good story that ties in to why people drink great beer. So we continue to regurgitate that and teach, train, and get people excited.
Jonas said small twice. Let's be very clear. We're one of 3 breweries that broke the barrier into regional brewing. We are the 10th fastest growing brewery in the country as of last year's numbers. The only brewery in the past 3 years that has been in the top 10 growing brewery in the country. So
Keep going. I mean, I'm sure.
no, I don't like to say those things, but like it starts with good people.
Yeah.
And obviously the beer and the quality of the beer is a given, but it starts with good people, and the strategy and all that other stuff comes after.
Yeah.
But having Jonas and his team and Teddy and his team and Chris and everybody else and Jackie, and you just like it starts with good people and just letting them go for it. And I shouldn't even say good people, great people. I think that's what we've done, I guess, for the past 4 years is
Yeah.
just focusing on that.
Yeah. Look, I love it, right? Like, there's a big picture that I'm sure that you guys all talk about every single day, that everyone's working towards, but you want to have people, there to internally that can help you and with their own focuses, right? Like that's why you brought on Jonas. He has the experience. He's a seller, right? That's not what you do, right? Like, so like you want to give people the opportunity to be successful where they are. I mean, that's just for any good team that you're trying to build. So obviously it sounds like the team is there, the people are there, the story's there for sure. And is there something like you've been working towards, like, I don't know, something that you want to be celebrating like a year from now? Like what society, what does society want to be celebrating that, you have been, all kind of championing? Like, is it, I don't know, right? Like, I'm just kind of curious if there's something out there that you guys are all striving for today.
And we have 4 goals as a company, and it's growth, expense management, employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to single one of those out. We've got to execute on all 4 of those to celebrate it. And if one isn't doing as well as another, it's going to take a little more babysitting to get it back up. But we can't lose focus of growth if we're focusing on expense management. We can't focus on customer satisfaction at the expense of employee satisfaction. So what I want to champion for a year from now is that we're just absolutely hitting all those 4 goals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And just keeping it simple is so much harder from an execution standpoint than, like I was talking to somebody today and I was like, yeah, I'm busy and I'm pulled in a bunch of different directions, but like, it's more satisfying to have like to be able to eat like one big plate of food than like 30 little plates of food. And I think when you succeed, it's like, no, I ate 1 plate, and if I can get that for everybody here and for our customers and for our accountants, I guess, it's I think that's it. And it's going to evolve. And, you ask us in a year from now, I'll probably have a different answer. But if I can just not focus on the little things that are easy to digest and also have that for everybody here at the company, mm-hmm. that they can feel accomplished by, finishing your plate. I don't know if you have kids, but it's like, just finish your plate, like stop looking at squirrels.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. It's just like, it's a continuous thing and it's
Mm-hmm.
fun and everyone here is having fun. And there's no straight, obviously I've been talking for like 3 minutes about this. There's no straight answer for me. I don't see a finish line. It's just keep at it and keep people happy on both sides and continue to grow and watch our money as we grow to make sure that, we can stay profitable and distribute those profits.
Yep. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that perspective. It's a great question to ask because you always get different answers from everyone. And so I appreciate you kind of like diving into like the aspects for what you guys are looking to do at Society, and obviously continue to provide great quality beer to the area in California that you guys are servicing right now and continue to grow.
I mean, like I could give you a canned answer, but it wouldn't be truthful because we've done this. We set goals for ourselves. And we set a 10-year goal and a 5-year goal and a 3-year goal and a 1-year goal and quarterly goals, and every year they change, and every quarter they change. So I think it's like nirvana. Like the means justify the end. Like trying to just get to nirvana doesn't get you there. It's focusing on the path.
Yep.
God, it makes me sound like
I love it. Well, look, you have a great story. And I think as we wrap things up, you pursued your passions, like, which is like every entrepreneur, like yourself, like you do this because you're passionate about it, right? You could have done something else. You could have retired by now, probably, but you want to pursue something that you were happy doing, right? And I'd love it to kind of get your perspective, like if there's anything that you like to share to, our listeners, or to other people who may be in a similar place that have these passions, like, what advice would you give them?
I would say, people generally say like don't be scared, like jump, just do it. I would actually say like be very scared, like because that fear will drive you into a place of like really looking into things and saying, is this actually realistic or not? I've coached a couple people who want to get into brewing or start a brewery, and I said, go work at a brewery. Like, well, I can't afford to make $17 an hour. I'm like, well, what do you think is going to happen when you start a brewery? So really take a hard look at it, because it is going to be your life. And when it's your passion, it can also be an incredible hobby, but might not pay the bills.
Yeah.
So if there is literally nothing else in the whole entire world you want to do, and our days are numbered. When you're born, your days are numbered. That is just a fact. So there's also no wrong decision. So if you try and fail, it's okay too. And if you're okay with accepting failure, I think you're going to be totally fine. I think if you're scared of failure, it's probably not a good move. And that there's nothing wrong with a person who's scared of failure. That's totally okay, because that means you're probably pretty comfortable and you're risk averse. There's no, it will not solve happiness if you're unhappy, I guess. I don't want to say, I shouldn't say be scared, but like, you know what, when you get some heavy shit on your plate, things get real very fast. So think about it. Talk to a lot of people, specifically with beer. If you want to get into it, ask, if you can work part-time washing kegs, because the glory goes away very fast, specifically with beer. Most of the job, probably like with most jobs, is 95% of it isn't fun. It's part of your job, but that 5% far outweighs the 95% that might be hard or taxing or stressful and anxiety inducing. But if that 5% that is awesome, it outweighs that 95%, then it's worth pursuing. And yeah, it can be scary. And again, it's be okay with failure. There's nothing wrong with that. I think at least our generation, we were taught that, failure, getting a D or an F in school meant you weren't good enough. And I would actually say that that's okay. As long as you take it as like a learning experience to get better.
Yeah.
And you can always go, you know what? You can always go back to your job or whatever. You can find something else to do.
Yeah.
You're gonna be okay. No matter what you do, you're gonna be okay as long as you have the right mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love the way you put it, like kind of wrapping it all up, where everything is a learning experience. Every day, like you're learning, you should be trying to learn stuff, and it's okay to fail. And like, yeah, we all want to be successful, but it doesn't happen overnight either. I think that's the other thing, is like people want instant gratification. People, the world that we live in, that's kind of what we want, is be rewarded for something like that. But it's not easy. It's not going to be hard. There's going to be failure. You think about like professional athletes, and they lose usually, 25, 50% of the time. Think about baseball players, they're hitting under 200, which means they get a hit one every 5 at bats.
That's why that's the best sport of all time.
Yeah.
You can be good 20% of the time, and you're,
yeah.
I guess 30%.
30%, yeah.
So that's great advice. And I appreciate you sharing kind of like your own founder's perspective and advice to our community as well, and whether they're ready to take a leap now or in the future, as long as you can get the education to figure out if this is the step to take for you, that's best for you. And there's no shame in doing it and failing.
No one is smarter.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Seuss said, like, no one's more you than you.
Yeah.
Just be you.
Yeah.
And be happy with you and be okay with screwing up. And that's, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, learn. I think the main thing is just learn to take the hardships in life. There's some things we can't control.
Yep.
Family issues, economic issues, stuff like that. Like we can't really do that. And we have this feeling that we should be able to control everything in our own lives. And you know what? That's the one thing you can be like, yeah, this is, shit happens, whatever.
Yeah, it does.
Move on.
Yeah.
And beat yourself up for a little bit, but move on and forgive yourself.
Yeah. What about you, Jonas? Let's hear your perspective really quick.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess my suggestion would be find something you do enjoy, right? And just ride that wave. Some of them are going to crash out super quick. Some of them are going to ride for a good, a really nice long ride, and you're going to get done and be like, hell yeah, I'm getting back in there. But the whole onus of it is at the end of that wave, whether it's quick or long, just get back on the board and get back out there and keep on rolling. There's going to be scary points. There's going to be a lot of fun points as well. So in those scary moments, you just got to look up and be like, okay, what's next? How do I get back up to the top? And another little piece, I guess, would be understand what you're good at with your passion and ride that wave. Don't try to, if cooking isn't your situation, but you love food, maybe you don't get in the kitchen. So that would be my suggestion.
Maybe be a professional eater.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Make it your hobby. And if it ends up being like a good way to make a living, then you could do that.
Totally.
Yeah. Think about like video games. There was no scholarships to play video games when we were in school. Now you can get scholarships and get paid to play video games.
That is the wildest thing ever. If I could get
I know. Anything, I guess, as we wrap things up, like we haven't talked about from the Societe Brewing perspective. It's been great chatting with you both and getting to know you and hearing your stories and learning about the organization and how you guys are continuing to kill it in this crowded space you guys are in. Is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
For me, from a reflection standpoint and what I've been taught by our chairman and my mentor is I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm not good at being a realist. So I've got to lean on other people for my weaknesses. And I think that's a huge thing. And we all have, as Jonas said, like what we're good at and what we're bad at. And as I mentioned earlier, there's things that I want to be good at this, but I'm never going to be good at it. And I could want to be good at it, but if I can accept that I'm not and find someone who is good at it and just listen to them, as Obama said it, he's like, not to get, and I don't mean to get political in any stance. No, I'm just saying, but Obama, he was very clear about like, I just surround myself with people who are smarter than me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good way to put it. And he makes it sound so easy, but that's a very difficult thing to do, to let go. And then it's a mental training thing. So be okay with who you are.
Cool. I love it. Where can people find you guys? Where's Societe? Like, tell us about your tasting room. Tell us about how people can get a hold of you if they want to strike up a conversation, get to know you, but get to know you
What's your
both.
cell phone? 760.
LinkedIn,
You can reach us
maybe
actually at
The note taker bot's gonna send it out to everybody.
LinkedIn or something.
Jonas Wilby on LinkedIn. You can find me at Jonas at SocieteBrewing.com, and we spell society with an E at the end.
SocieteBrewing.com is our website.
Yep.
Instagram, all of our socials are at Societe Brewing. And then we've got our headquarters is here in Kearny Mesa in San Diego, which is pretty central San Diego. It's our pretty big brewery with a pretty big tasting room. And then that's 8262 Claremont Mesa Boulevard, San Diego, California, 92111.
Love it.
And then we have a satellite tasting room in Old Town. Old Town is, for those of you who don't know, is a cool little neighborhood in San Diego, a bunch of Mexican restaurants, and we're kind of nestled right in there.
Very cool.
On San Diego Avenue.
And if you go to SocieteBrewing.com, you can find our beer finder there, where you can find Society all throughout California. It's your local favorite liquor store, bar, restaurant, grocery store, wherever you're shopping.
Love it. Yeah, everyone go check out SocieteBrewing.com. That's SOCIETE Brewing.com. And everyone definitely go check them out if you're local here, and also anyone who's listening. Any way they can order online? Is that kosher and for you guys? Do you guys do any e-commerce?
We can't ship over state lines.
Yep.
Interstate alcohol shipping is tricky, and
we shy away from it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Just was curious.
Yeah. Great question.
In state we still do
Reach
it.
out. We'll try to find it.
In state we still do. We probably ship a case or two a week. So I just opened a beer, so I'm perfect.
There we go.
We probably ship a couple cases a week. During COVID, obviously we were shipping like 70 or 80 cases a week, which is kind of fun. But if you just Google Society Beer Finder, you can find us both in restaurants, bars, and retailers to go. So
awesome. Well,
7,000 places across California.
Love it. You guys are killing it. I'm gonna go get one myself. And hopefully everyone who's listening has cracked one while listening too. Appreciate you guys doing this with me. Thank you so much, Jonas. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate you guys sharing your story. I definitely feel like I've learned a lot about you guys and about society and what you guys are up to, and definitely a force to be reckoned with. So excited to see what you guys do from here.
Now we're just one of the many. That's it. Seriously.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, brother. Come on down to the brewery.
Say my last name one more time.
We will. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Have a good one.
I'm just kidding, Max. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.